That song One by the Irish band U2 is about, we talk about love, we talk about belonging, we talk about connection, unity, and sometimes maybe we treat these words like they're supposed to be easy words, this word love. But this song One is about, it's really a struggle. It's a struggle to love sometimes. It's a struggle to be loved sometimes. And it's appropriate to the Flourishing community model because, as you'll see, the FCM is about creating the context where people can work their struggles out together as one. Kuja pamoja. Kwaja mingi. This song, One, when I was in college, every time it came on, I had to stand up and salute it because there was someone who understood suffering and who still aspired for more, who knew what it was within them to long and desire and drive for more. Something better, a world that is better. You get me? So when I was in college, just one other personal note, when I was in college, trying to decide where do I put my life effort, I there met, when I was a college student, I came in contact with children who lived in urban settings, who didn't have the context for themselves to become all that they could be. And they were outside of my awareness. I didn't know that these children existed in this way. And I prayed, God, if you are loving and powerful, what are you doing? And God responded, I am suffering with them and calling my church to respond. So I said, where else are there people who are suffering, children who are suffering, who are outside of my awareness? And at that time it was the band U2 and their lead singer Bono, who was working so hard for children in Africa. It was in 2002. It was the height of the AIDS orphan crisis. And I thought, okay, there are children in Africa that maybe I can go and join in some way, and with them find some way to hope, find some way to work towards a loving world. And this song One, for me, encapsulates that. So I wasn't planning to share those personal notes, but this day, this is the second time in a university in Kenya that we have done this masterclass. And I saw Prof. Giboro and Vice Chancellor and DVCs and Dr. Magailo and all the team, the tech team. I so appreciate everything that you have put into today to make today successful. And I also so appreciate that within your own institution, there is a feeling of connection and warmth and family. And that is what we aspire to when we are talking about FCM. So thank you for sharing that with me today and for having me. The learning goals, I'm hoping that by the end of this session, you can understand the origins and the foundations, what it was that drove the development of the FCM, to understand and explore the structure and how we implement it. What do we mean when we say, is it just a word that sounds nice like love, that doesn't come with struggle? Or is it something that we can actually do? And what does it mean to do? So that's the structure and implementation. Theoretical underpinnings and governance principles. It will make more sense as we go along. But we'll talk some about theory and ways of measuring and understanding, particularly for those of you who are inclined to measure things, like researchers. What are we measuring? What are we trying to measure? And then community mobilization and scaling. How is it scaling? Where do we hope to go? All that. Okay. So, face down. Well, let's just share. Just share. Okay. FCM origins. So in 2012, our country director, we didn't have an NGO or an organization at that time. But in 2012, Wanakatari asked me, what do we do about children who live on the streets? And I looked in the peer-reviewed literature, the scientific literature, and I saw these children are really, really suffering. But you can go to the streets and talk with them and know this already. You don't need peer review to tell you these children are facing hard times. And the literature talked about the abuse and some of the things that were identified that children experienced on the streets or before. But what was not answered in that literature was, what do we actually do? What do we do? We just write papers. As a researcher, we write papers. As an organization, we say, oh, poli sana. What do we do? So what we got to is that if we wanted to rethink how society, how community, how life functions, to ensure that we optimize the health and the well-being of all people, there may be no better place to start than children who are living on the streets. So thinking with their perspective, you'll see led to the FCM. So here's a case study. David grew up in a village in central Agembe. His parents had violent conflicts regularly, and they had trouble caring for him. He became friends with other boys who lived on the streets, where he found better support and connection. He found love more on the streets than in his family. And we go to love, yeah? So the situation, David moved to the streets, where he began inhaling glue with the other boys. While he lived on the streets for 2 years, he found freedom there initially, the sense of, I can do what I want. But then he discovered that he is trapped in some way, in a world where he regularly experiences abuse and neglect, and now he cannot find his way outside of life in this context. So here's the question. What themes or issues, I'm asking you because I want you to answer, what themes or issues do you see in this story? What comes up for you in this story? Yeah.
Social disorganization.
Okay, yeah, good. I was wondering if the criminology student knew of social disorganization, but yeah, good. Yeah.
With rap.
Rap
is there, but where?
Aha, yeah, very good. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he's going to love on the streets. Yeah. Family conflicts. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah, good.
I also discovered that a person can end up being in streets, yet there is a surviving and able family. Outside there. It's not always that when you're in the streets, there's no relatives, there's no parents.
Yeah.
They might be there, but now the issue of care.
Yeah, so just because you don't see them or they're not in a picture immediately, doesn't mean they don't exist. This was kind of what Kibora was going to also when he was talking of social disorganization. We'll see a bit later. I don't think I've named social disorganization, but it's very much informs how we think. Yeah. Others, what else do you see?
I see the role of peers in